Trump's tariffs have left exporters rethinking their strategy, the government changing policy, stock markets crumbling, and global alliances shifting. Trump's 50% tariffs on India, he says, is to do with India's oil trade with Russia. The statement soon shifted attention to US's own trade with Russia and even the EU being the largest buyer of LNG and natural gas to Russia. And when asked about this trade, well, Trump said that he does not know anything about this number.
India says that the US imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll get back to you on that.
Well, we'll give him that. He's bad with numbers. He does not know how the reciprocal tariffs were calculated. And according to him, India and Pakistan have been fighting for hundreds of years. Now, that aside, a report from Reuters suggests that behind the scenes of peace talks with Russia, Trump has been exploring energy deals with Moscow. Yes, Trump, who has accused India of buying Russian oil and fueling the Russian war machine and has punished India as well with 50% tariffs, now he is considering energy cooperation with Moscow. The report goes on to give details of the deal as well. It says that Trump's team discussed the possibility of ExxonMobil re-entering Russia's Sakhalin-1 oil and gas project. Sakhalin-1 is Russia's largest energy extraction sites. Now, the project earlier had American, Japanese, and Indian participation before the sanctions were forced and Exxon and other players had to move out. The same report also said that Trump's administration pitched a sale of US equipment for gas extraction at sanctioned projects like Arctic LNG 2. Earlier reports also suggested that the US also offered to buy nuclear-powered icebreaker vessels from Russia. Report says that these discussions took place during the visit of US envoy Steve Witkoff to Moscow earlier this month. Now, if this is not double standards, then what is? Earlier, India had called out the West on double standards of the sanctions. In Alaska, Putin, right in front of Trump, said, and I quote, "When the new administration came to power, bilateral trade started to grow. It is still very symbolic. Still, we have seen growth of 20%. Now, since Trump is so bad with numbers, let's give him some data. According to the US International Trade Commission, American imports from Russia totaled approximately $3 billion in 2024, down from $36 billion in 2021, but the trade is still on. In 2024, fertilizers worth $1.1 billion, palladium worth $878 million, uranium worth $624 million, and aircraft engine parts worth $75 million were imported. In services, US imports were at $384 million and exports were at $1.3 billion. In fact, from January to May 2025, US imports from Russia grew 23% year-on-year to reach $2.1 billion. Palladium imports up 37%, uranium up 28%, and fertilizers up 21%. Still, Trump's trade advisor says India is fueling Russia-Ukraine war and even called it Modi's war. Well, first it was Biden's war, now it's Modi's war. But let's face the reality. The only one benefiting economically from this war is the US. US is home to half of the world's top 100 arms producers. As per SIPRI report, US arms exports grew to 40% of global total in 2018 to 22. US is also supplying weapons to Europe to help Ukraine and to Ukraine directly too. A few weeks back, US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent also acknowledged that US supplied weapons to Europe, which then in turn sold them to Ukraine with a 10% markup. And let's not forget that these tariffs are also one-sided. Trump's administration has exempted pharma, electronics, and auto from these tariffs, which could hurt American companies and consumers most if these were tariffed. So are these tariffs actually to punish India for purchasing Russian oil or to stop the Russia-Ukraine war, or is it to induce panic and get India to open up agriculture and dairy market? Because, well, US is going ahead and making deals with Russia, so why is it wrong when India does it? Well, India is not panicking or bowing down to Trump's tantrums. As per a German newspaper, Modi refused 4 calls from Trump in recent weeks ahead of the tariff deadline. He made it clear that he will not compromise. India is confident, and the government is also trying to turn this into an opportunity to bring in reforms that will help the country grow in long term. It is diversifying trade, accelerating trade talks with the EU and Russia, and has signed the FTA with UK. It is bringing in GST reforms, slashing GST rates to support MSMEs and accelerate domestic consumption to offset losses from these tariffs. But the situation does not look very good for America. Someone has to foot the bill for these high tariffs, and they are American firms and consumers. Tariff money might be blowing up federal coffers, as Trump says, but American pockets are feeling the burn. In July, consumer prices rose 2.7% year-on-year. The Fed chairman says that tariffs are now starting to lift prices of heavily imported goods. As per Goldman Sachs, US consumers have absorbed 22% of tariff costs, but that share was expected to raise to 67% by October. About 70% of the direct cost of tariffs will eventually fall on the consumer, and total could raise to 100% as per Goldman Sachs economists. And this happens gradually because businesses have already loaded up warehouses with pre-tariff goods. But once they're over, the game is over for consumers in America. Still, Trump wants to shoo away his allies, and India is just doing the opposite. It is building relations, exploring new markets, while US is closing one door after another right on the faces of its allies. And that is not a good strategy for long term. What do you think? Let us know in the comments, and like, share and subscribe to ET Now for more such news and views.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.